Hello everyone and welcome on board. This is going to be the game analysis, the first game analysis of the 45-45 Lichess League. It has been a great honor to be selected again as a commentator, game analyzer of this league again. I have already done this job once and as I said, it was a great pleasure to be picked again. I have been sent the 6 games and I have had already a reasonably good look at all of them. I'm very delighted to see and say that the overall quality of the games have been steadily improving, and yeah, I would like to congratulate all the players who participated in the 45-45 league, and especially to those whose games have been picked and will be analyzed once again. Good quality chess, awesome stuff, really excited to get into it. So much so actually that I have recorded the first game analysis twice already, but both occasions I messed up something with my audio settings and consequently the videos were totally unwatchable. I humbly apologize to both the players and everybody who decided to struggle through the video despite of the appalling audio, but due to, I don't know, let's call it professionalism, I decided to remove the video for the second time and upload it for the third. Hopefully this time round with right audio. So let's get into the game, which I'm going to comment it now on the third time. We are looking at a Ruy Lopez sideline with g6. It is a very interesting stuff because normally the g6 line happens without a6 inserted, and quite often it turns into something like a King's Indian. And this is meant to be quite good for white, but with a6 inserted, this is turning out to be something quite different. Once again, c3 is playable here, and is a totally fine move. d4 was played, which is also quite okay. ed, knight d, and knight ge7. Very unique continuation. Black is trying to keep the diagonal clean so that when the bishop lands on g7, it has got a bit of an oomph on the long diagonal. And white responded equally uniquely by playing bishop g5, which is a very sensible decision, given that knight went to e7 and g6 has been played, so f6 is a bit weak, the ping can be quite annoying, so I thought, okay, this is fun. Bishop g7 takes, and this is the first point in the game where white played something that I really didn't like, mostly on face value. It's not a bad move, c3 was played, but me who has grown up on Morphy and Alekhine and all the aggro guys, I just would like to play knight c3 here, and honestly I don't see what's wrong with it. If h6 I drop back, if they castle I play queen d2, and if king h7 I just castle here, and I would be loving life to be white here. The rook b8 in combined with the fianchetto bishop is not really a danger I would worry about much here, because rook b8 can easily be neutralized by bishop b3, and the bishop on g7 will be neutralized by bishop d4, whereupon it stops being an attacker and in fact it will be a defender absent from the area of the black king. So this looks to me just much more natural and easier chess than whatever c3 is promising to be. So I really dislike this for that reason, but objectively speaking this is not a bad move. Now after h6, I again would have preferred to come back this way rather than maintaining the pin, because it's very obvious that black is going to be able to execute a dark squared strategy and eventually trading of the dark squared bishop and then utilize the weakness of these squares. So here bishop e3 was my go-to choice, and after castles, I was looking at a superbly fascinating line, and in fact you will see throughout the game that I'm going to show you lines, mostly with the assistance of the computer, that are just very irrational and don't look like anything that we are normally used to. Let me demonstrate it with a variation here. f5, check, king here, knight d2, takes, knight f5. And when I looked at it first with the computer, or without, or whatever, the computer being on like right now it is, I just thought that black was way better here because knight is about to pinch the bishop, and these two in particular are really poorly placed. And then I looked at the evaluation and it said rook e1 and white is a lot better. And it took me a while to understand that actually it's ridiculously difficult for black to develop these two pieces, and the pawn on d7 can never progress without falling into bishop takes c6 with a big fat tempo. And if I just get to play one more move, rook a d1, then my development advantage is going to be just very, very depressing. A lot is said about this position by the fact that according to the computer the best move is a5, and after rook a d1, knight e3, rook takes, and then queen h4. So what does a5 have to do with the queen coming this way? I mean, it had to because of the pin, but yeah. Anyhow, so there were lots of very interesting and unique positions in the game to be found. But I will just go on now with how the actual game went, because that is going to be no less fascinating. Bishop h4 was played, g5, bishop back, h5, h3, very logical chess, and knight g6. So as per indicated beforehand, we are headed for this dark squared strategy, knight d2 and a5. So now black is going to develop wide squared bishop onto this diagonal. Knight c4, bishop a6, and knight e3. Now white is not a newbie to the positional concepts of chess either. So his plan is knight e3 going into f5, a massive hole. The f5 square, beautiful outpost for the knight. By the way, sorry, I forgot to introduce our lovely players. So we have got Wookash in the white corner, the white trunks, sporting a 2311 rating, and in the black trunks we have got Assassin in white, 2323. So a high profile game, and as I'm going to emphasize it later on this game, the players really did an amazing job in this game. So bishop e5, bishop takes, knight takes, a very consistent plan, but it turns out that white has just played well enough in the interim to fend it off and in fact come out on top. Queen d4, an awesome move, one that not many a club player would allow to happen, as in what comes after, because queen d4 is actually warmly inviting knight d3 check, which is going to deny the white king its castling rights. But it turns out that the king actually can walk to the queen side and will be totally safe, and black is losing a lot of time on coming in and then evacuating shortly after. So now after king d2, the rook is hanging on h8, so the evac has to begin, and now c4, very, very good move, blocking off the diagonal of the bishop, and all of a sudden the knight is a loner, can't take because of rook f1 wins the knight, so it had to go back. And at this point, white failed to do something very important, which would have been to consolidate this advantage that he managed to build by fending off this attack, to some extent fending off the dark squared strategy, although the knight on e5 is still a menacing piece, but so will be the one on f5. And what really stands out in this position is that whilst the white king is looking like it's going to find a safe shelter, what about this dude here, you may wonder. So at this point it looked like white was headed towards a very pleasant position. And this is exactly where things started to go funny. After queen b8, black is announcing queen b4. And that's literally all black can do here. And denying this opportunity from black by playing a3 would have put black in the back foot very, very, very much. In this case, queen b4 is a no-go. There is not a lot to be seen here what to do for black. Queen a7 seems to be the only reasonable way to improve on the queen's position. And even the trade followed by king 3-3 allows white an excellent endgame with space advantage, better placed pieces, better pawn structure, the lot. Although now the computer prefers here, after queen a7, simply queen c3, even keeping the heavies on the board and dropping the king back on here. I don't know, I suppose it's a matter of taste which one you like. I would rather instinctively go for the endgame, because again queen c3 would allow the black queen to enter the fray. Now instead, however, white opted for king c2, and now the queen on b4 is quite an annoying piece, and it also allowed black to castle queenside. Now this position, if anything, it reminds me a little bit to the Scotch defense. There is a line in the Scotch where black plays early knight f6, knight takes e6, b takes, where this exact pawn structure occurs, and it's a total mess, and it's very hard to say who is actually better, because the position is just so irrational. I mean, look at the double pawns, look at this bishop, absolutely atrocious, can't come back this way, doesn't do anything that way. But at the same time, this bishop is hopeless on that diagonal. Truth to be told, it does have a lot of future there. But in general, if you are not a player who plays a Scotch with either color, you would find yourself here in struggle town in terms of finding plan strategies and just your usual clues that you normally can grab onto in a normal chess game. Like, you know, you go like, oh yeah, my knight on f5 will be okay, or I can go for a d5 break or a c5 bishop b7. If you are not familiar with this structure, you will find these very difficult to find. And I would like to raise my hats off to the players, because they turned this into an absolute slugfest and an amazing back and forth punches, keeping with the box analogies. So white played here g3, which by the way was a bad move, but with a very logical and clear intent, and that was to play f4 to deny knight's beautiful position in e5. However, funnily enough, this move tragically weakens the e4 pawn, because now I can no longer play pawn f3, which in contrast to g3 is even uglier. Now note how every single pawn is on white with a white squared bishop, but this would have kept the center intact and very firm. On the other hand, g3 is almost an auto loss, because after bishop b7, c5 has become unstoppable, and black is just way ahead. From this point on, I also would like to point out that the knight on e3 is going to become a very clumsy piece that is not well, but in fact very poorly placed in order to assist white in defending the e4 pawn. Here is an example variation for you. Queen c3, rook e8, knight f5, take, and knight f3. This motif is going to be very heavily featured in the game. The whole concept is that black is attacking the pawn, and at the same time the knight denies the rook to come and defend e4, and black is on the verge of winning already. Once again, note how utterly useless the bishop is on a4. That was the first big miss in the game, but an understandable one. Black went straight into f3. I really love this. It's not the best move, but it's super gutsy and it's super aggressive. What it is trying to do is to actually utilize both of these files with the heavy pieces to attack along. So rook hf8, queen back, and now black is ready to attack the f2 pawn too. Incredibly enough, even here, after shredding the f6 pawn, black's best is to transpose back into the endgame and just pick up the e4 cherry and then pick up the f2 cherry afterwards too. And once again, what is at first a little bit tricky to understand but becomes clearer and clearer as you play on and analyze this position is the fact that white is essentially a piece down here, owing to the fact that the a4 bishop is not gonna partake in any of the main important part of the game. So the queen trade would have led to a very clean win, but black wanted to go full on and opted to go back to e7, and that was a second pawn sacrifice on a5 with a tempo. Well, so we are talking about very brave chess here, although we have to admit that queen e4 check pinched one of the pawns back immediately with a check, and then bishop b7. I still far prefer black here. It's very clear that the game is in his hand. There is a very annoying attack on here. The e3 knight barely holds the position together, but once again it's rather clumsy than anything else, and the a4 bishop is still a disaster. Now in this position, white decided to drop the queen back to c3, mostly to cover up the weak dark squares and to give some protection to the king. But in fact, this was a very bad blunder, and in fact the first time in the game when my general rational chess approach would have sufficed for a quick win, because here a central thrust, which we haven't seen in this game for a while, would have immediately put white on the brink of loss, simply because d4 is incredibly difficult to stop. One beautiful line example variation would run like this: takes, rook c1 and queen e5, beautifully pinning the queen, also defending the mate. And after the trade, everything is hanging for white. This is just picture perfect. F2 is hanging with check, D4 is hanging with a double attack on E3, and if that wasn't enough, knight D3 fork is also in the air. White can pretty much throw in the towel right here, right now. This position is not tenable anymore. So here, once again, D5, a very logical thrust in the center, would have mopped up the game. And that was one of the biggest misses in the whole entire game. Instead, C5 was played, which was very logical because it extended the scope of the white squared bishop. But at the same time, there will be later on tactics utilizing now the fact that my bishop can tickle d7 as well. And in fact, the players did mention a beautiful line here on the chat about a line with bishop d7. I'm going to show you a similar concept to what they discuss in a different position. You will be quite amazed how cool chess these two guys put together on this day. So knight h2, rook e1, and f2 check. When I was looking at this position, I was having an inkling that I reckon the king should go here. And then I noticed that the text was king a1. And I also noticed that Stockfish immediately attached a question mark to it. So I was very satisfied that my chess gods told me that I was right and I should have gone to a3, or rather Wookash should have gone to a3. But I couldn't explain for the life of me what the difference was. So I actually had to start playing out both lines against the computer, figure out wherein lied the difference, and here we go. After king here, one variation runs with knight f3, bishop takes d7 check. This is the motif I was talking about. Can't be captured because of queen h8, and we're mopping up with the back rank mate. So king b8 is only. Bishop f5, hitting the queen, hitting the rook. Queen e7, and knight g4. Tremendous chess, beautiful stuff. Every single black heavy piece is under attack. The rook is on, the queen is on, and on. The only way to get out of this mess is to take the rook. We take the other rook, takes back, we take this rook, and hallelujah, white is a pawn up. Knight is really badly misplaced. Easy victory, no dramas whatsoever. White went on to win, or should have, had he played king a3. Now let's put it in contrast with king a1, the text move, where if after knight f3, which is the move that should have been played for the record, d6 was a mistake, after knight f3, if I try to pull the same trick off, then bishop f5, queen e7, knight g4, and ta-da, that's a check. This is where having the king on a3 have made a world of a difference, because then I could have taken on e7 and win the game. In contrast, I have to take back now, and after where am I going? Oh, I'm just taking a free piece. I'm being silly. I got confused with a different line here. Black is just winning. So that's a piece up. There was another line here that I really wanted to show you. Somewhere here. Yeah, I was wondering what would happen here if I took, and after take back, I would start playing chess from here as white. Because at first sight, when I looked at it, I went like, is this really that much of a biggie? Doesn't look that way, does it? So white is a pawn up, and it's not clear why black is so much better. I looked at the evaluation of the computer. I had to rely on the computer with this game analysis more than ever in my life. But again, it was very unique in the sense that the evaluation was helpless. I had to go into lines and far deeper than what you can see on the top right side of the screen in order to grasp what's going on. For example, here after rook d1, the evaluation is minus 2.1, meaning black is totally winning. If you look at it, it's very far from being apparent. So I did what I really love to do in these cases, and I started to analyze a different move than what the computer suggests in its line. For example, here it comments to go g4. And I thought, you know what, beat me. I will go bishop b1. I defend a2, oh good, all fine and dandy. And then it goes queen f6, mate in 10. I nearly fell off my chair, and then I realized the immense power and the beautiful coordination that these three pieces put on the board. Queen f6 has created an incredibly stunning shot. Knight takes b3. Can't take with the queen because it's pinned. I have to take back and mate. Beautiful stuff. I'm like, right, okay, that's an easy one to handle. I will do something like... What was I gonna do here? Oh yeah, I thought, okay, no worries, I will defend the queen, I'm fine. And then, oopsie daisies, sideways threats are very dangerous. Mind your sideways threats, you mate. Beautiful. And so the longer I spent on this position, the more apparent it became that knight on d4, rook on f2 with the queen coming onto the dark squares is gonna be an absolute terror to deal with. Beautiful example of how rich this position is. I really had tremendous fun investigating these variations. Now after rook f2, king a1, d6 was played. That was a mistake here. But please be mindful that we are nearing 31, move 31. Time scramble is about to kick in. So these mistakes are more than okay to happen. And even here, the complications that arose are absolutely mind-boggling. So these two guys have put on a show that was just amazing. Look at this. Knight g4, hitting queen, hitting rook. c2. What a move. What a move. You attack my queen, fine, I attack yours. Be my guest. And then white went queen f6, and black went back to e2. How good is that? There was a line here where black could get the two rooks for the queen that I wanted to show you. How did that go? Here. Yeah, so after rook e2, now I can't really take because after queen takes knight hanging, rook hanging, and I'm dead. Knight f2 was necessary. Again, what a move to find, because at first sight, this is horrid. It looks like take, and two rooks for the queen. Thank you, see you later, alligator. But in fact, now the king is going to begin to feel a bit ticklish. For starters, bishop e4 is not good because of check. And I pick up the bishop, and then I'm going to penetrate on the white squares and mate black. So they can't take that, they have to do something else. And if they go here, then I can start checking. And I can start being very annoying. And if I'm not mistaken, there was a line somewhere here with b4. Definitely not here because rook e1. But there was an idea of b4 c5, and all of a sudden it's white who's attacking the black king. But again, none of this happened because black correctly played queen c2, rook trade, queen trade, and queen b2 drop back. The last big mistake in the game. Oh, actually, that's it. In this position, b4 was a brilliant thrust. And again, what an unlikely move. What an unlikely move, and what a concept. The idea is that if you take, I give you a check. You go away with the king, I keep hassling your rook. And when the rook finally tucks away on a useless square, I play knight d3. Point of b4, by the way, was just to defend the rook. And now I'm threatening to play knight b4, and all of a sudden, king is in quite a bit of trouble. How good is that? Like g4, knight takes, followed by rook here, knight check is threatened. All of a sudden, it's very ticklish to be here. Just wow! Where did that come from? All game long, or at least for the last 15 minutes, it was black putting on the show, and in a matter of a second, turns around with b4. Now instead he offered a queen trade, and finally, black for the third time did accept this queen trade, and from here on, the game was rather one-sided, although I have to admit that one of the most obvious mistakes that happened in the game happened right here, because for the life of me I don't understand, especially in time trouble, why one wouldn't play rook f8 here. Which is just a total no-brainer. Attacks the knight, threatens to come into the third. This is what every club player would play. You know, regardless of how much time they have on the clock. Knight f3 is very counterintuitive, even if the knight is going towards the right direction. And then it was topped off with king b8 here. That was another totally unexplainable mystery to me. So black, he played two rather illogical moves, if you will. They are not ruining the game, they're not losing anything, but Yeah, knight f3 here was missing a big win with rook f8, but whatever. But king b8 was just, yeah, beyond. Yeah, I can't fathom why this move was played. Like, if anyway you want to bring the king this way, so this wouldn't have occurred to me at all. But once again, the position is good enough to win without any dramas. And now black is back on track. So now rook g8, rook in, easy win, and white is also dropping a little bit here. Once again, mostly due to time trouble. Knight e5, bishop had to retreat, and the rest is a mop-up. Black is going to take the pawn and promote the queen. I will very quickly show you what happened. Pawn up, bishop in, pawn up, and now the check. Unstoppable with black getting the queen on the next turn. Overall, it was an incredibly high-level game, especially if we consider the fact again that this game was played in a very irregular structure that hardly ever occurs. The only time it does, as I told you already during the analysis, is in the Scotch, and even in the Scotch, it's only this particular variation that looks a little bit like what you have seen. Okay, so if white played this, but clearly he doesn't because he's a Rui Lopez player, he would have known this structure a little. And if black plays this against the Scotch, then he would have had a little knowledge too. But that's a lot of ifs. And there is no other opening on the face of Earth that gives you this very quirky structure where it's very hard to tell sometimes who is doing what to whom. So I would like to congratulate both of these players. They have put on a fantastic show, awesome tactical strikes back and forth. A really high quality game without any major blunders at all. I mean, lots of inaccuracies, but granted, I would have made most of them too. Hats off to you, gentlemen, or ladies, as the case may be, I don't know. That was a tremendous effort, and I'm really looking forward to posting the next 5 games, hopefully with proper audio as well. Thanks for tuning in, and make sure that you come back for the rest. Thank you. Bye.